Texas A&M has a shot to land the number one wide receiver in the 2026 class.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking a little bit about the baseball series this weekend. The team picks up their first loss of the season. We'll talk about the Cal Poly series. Basketball team, the ugly week, lost Tennessee on Saturday. We'll break that down in segment 2. But we're going to get things started talking about a more positive note, which is the recruitment of 5-star wide receiver Trisen Keys. So Texas A&M is obviously starting to shift the focus from the 25 to the 26 class. And one player that they have really targeted and they want to go get is 5-star receiver Trisen Keys, a player that is incredibly talented. All the top schools in college football want him. A guy that Texas A&M is going to have to make a hard push to land. So scouting report from 24/7 Sports on Keys is as follows: a potential game wrecker on the outside that can attack all 3 levels and constantly challenge defenses. Pairs elite ball skills together with dynamic route running, superior athleticism, and a long leveled frame. Creates separation with his suddenness and will break off defensive backs with snappy cuts. Attacks the football with confidence and has a rather high success rate in contested catch situations, usually creating an advantage with his natural bounce. Competitive with the ball in his hands, he can hit the throttle to capitalize on catch and run opportunities. Shined on the offseason circuit at multiple events in summer after sophomore year before assembling elite junior tape for Hattiesburg squad that went undefeated during the regular season. Might not ever be classified as a true burner, but has the skill set to emerge as a playmaker and trusted option at the premier out on the perimeter for a college football program contender, given the combination of size, fluidity, and coordination. So they haven't given a player comparison for Keys yet, but I mean, just on the film I watched, I mean, he's got a big frame sitting at 6'3", 6'2.5". You always know, I always say round that up. 6'2.5", 180 pounds, got a solid frame on him. Player that, I agree that I don't think he's ever going to be considered a burner, but he's not slow. There's those receivers that they're not the speed guys, that it's route running and shiftiness that get them open, or it's just they're tall and strong and they win the 50-50 balls. He's the guy that I think has a combination of speed, of the ability to create separation, but also, like they said in that blurb from 24/7 Sports, he does catch 50-50 balls at a high rate. I mean, they're like 60-40 for him based on the film. And, he's got a lot of upcoming visits. This is not, it's not like Texas A&M's in the driver's seat here. A kid that comes from the state of Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and which I believe is where Southern Miss is. I could be wrong. I know there's a Division I school there. I think it's Southern Miss. But Trisen Keys has recently set up visits. He's going to Tennessee March 10th. He's going to LSU March 18th. He's going to Texas A&M on March 29th and Michigan on April 5th. So there is definitely the concern of some of these other schools making a push. And then Ole Miss is still in there as well. I mean, a kid that comes from, like I said, Mississippi, and they're going to make their a run of their own. So a guy, what I love seeing is, and this is not, I mean, we're not talking about it. He is ranked on 3, I believe he was ranked 4, and on 24/7 Sports, he's ranked as the 4th overall. It was on 3, he's the 3rd, and then on 24/7 Sports, he's the 4th overall player. We're talking about a top 5 player in the class of 2026. And I mean, the Aggies are going to have a shot here. Like I said, this is early in the stages for this kid. I mean, there's a long way to go. We got to see what's going to happen. I mean, this is the early stages of this recruitment. These visits are going to happen, and then you're going to really start to figure out what's going to happen. But it's always good to get one of these kind of early on visits. And I think that is going to help the Aggies in this recruitment. He's a guy that, let's see, has he been to Texas A&M before. He was at an unofficial visit for the LSU game on May 15th. So he has been to Texas A&M before for that LSU game where we saw Marcel Reed bring the Aggies back in that one, thanks to the great play of him and his legs. So, LSU's in there, Michigan's in there, Tennessee's in there, Texas A&M's in there. We know that Ole Miss is going to make their run, knowing this is a Mississippi State kid, or a Mississippi kid. That they're gonna make their run, knowing that he's from their backyard, in essence, in that state. So, this is a kid, though. I mean, when you watch the film on him, I don't know how you don't want him. I think Texas A&M's done a great job recruiting receiver, whether in the portal or in the high school ranks. I love that, you go and you get a player like Jerome Miles, you go get a 5-star receiver in this class, this year. I think that if you go get a kid in Tristan Keys, you're building yourself up for future. I mean, look at who you've got right now. You've got Mario Craver, who's got a lot of eligibility left. Guy in Ashton Bethel Roman, who I think has a lot of upside. Obviously, Jerome Miles, the young kid that's going to be a star. You've got a lot of young receivers on this roster. Terry Bussey's still darn young, and we forget he's going to be a sophomore. So, if you land Keys and you bring him in next year, you're just adding more and more elite receivers to this room. And, we talked about it. Receivers, a position that it was a early on priority for Elko and the staff, especially in the portal, knowing that it was a spot where we didn't see a lot of great help last year. I mean, even when you had a guy like Evan Stewart, he wasn't doing a ton for you. And I know you could make the argument that you've had a ton of quarterback injuries over the last few years, and quarterback play is obviously something that's mixed in there as well. But I mean, when you look at this Texas A&M program, it's hard to not see the wide receiver position starting to move in the right direction for the future. And I'm hoping the one thing that's going to be interesting, I mean, if you assume that Marcel Reed's the guy of the future, and you assume, I don't believe he's going to be off to the NFL after this season, so you assume that's all reality, more than likely you're going to see Marcel Reed be the quarterback for Keys if Keys does end up picking Texas A&M. So I think that Keys wants to see proof of concept with the receivers currently on roster. Does this work with Concepcion and Miles and Craver and Bussey? I mean, you get a lot of great players in that room now. So if I'm Keys, I'm probably taking the wait and see approach. I mean, Texas A&M is always going to be an exciting name to players based on what we got going on with NIL and all that. It's always going to be a name that gets these high-level recruits fired up to go on visits and see what's going to happen with NIL and all that stuff. But I still think these players are starting to look more. I think what happened with the 2020, the class that was elite, I think what happened with that class that included all of those great players was some of those guys that left that elite class a few years back. I mean, that had all those 5 stars and was number 1 overall class. I think that changed their perspective on some of these recruits, because they're going, I think that college players now have to look at the future of themselves and looking at a program. And so what I mean by that is looking at players that were a part of that 2022 class, Evan Stewart, Walter Nolan. I mean, some of these guys moved on. I mean, how many of them? Shamar Stewart obviously turned himself into a pro here at Texas A&M. LT Overton gone, Wigman gone. I mean, all of these players moved on. And, I think the way that I look at that is Le'Veon Moss, obviously, Donovan Green gone. You got Noah Thomas gone. But what I guess the point is, I think the players look at that NIL check and they go, oh man, I'm going to be set. I can help my family. I'm in a good spot. And then they go, yeah, but I'm a good enough player to make it to the NFL. And maybe as of right now, you can't argue that a player has a better chance to go to the NFL. All of those players could have gone to any school in college football. They would have had a better chance to go pro if they went to Alabama or went to Georgia, based off what's happened. That's just reality. So Texas A&M's got to get to a spot where they are taking the elite talent they're getting and getting that elite talent to the next level and getting them to the NFL. That's how you're going to land recruits. I just think some of these players, they're going, I need the long-term money of being an elite NFL player, and I want to go to a program that's going to get me there and maybe give me a few $100,000 less right now, because the upside of $5 million down the road is greater than $200,000 right now. And I think players are getting smarter and understanding that, and that's why Texas A&M has to start taking some of these. And like I said, I know Shamar Stewart, but they've got to start taking some of these players they're recruiting and turning them. And it's not Elko's fault yet. This is obviously a issue that he inherited, but it's got to become a reality, or I think it is going to be harder to get recruits like Keys. But still, Texas A&M's in a spot where they're going to make a run and have a chance to land the number one wide receiver in the 2026 class. We'll keep updating this as we know more and that visit comes by, but there's a lot to look forward to when it comes to the chance to land in the top receiver. We're going to talk about the Aggies and the loss to Tennessee. It was really frustrating. You let happen what you couldn't let happen. We're going to break it all down on coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000x your cash. It's that easy and keeps every game exciting. You know, what I like about building lineups, this week I'm looking at Jason Tatum, more than 29 points, and I mean, there's a lot of value there. I think that he's a player that continues to be really, really good. There's just a lot of great value in him as a player. And a lot of guys, are you interested in Luka Doncic? Do you like what he's got going on? It's so easy. I love how I can put my picks in 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. It's easy and it's a ton of fun. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So on Saturday, the Aggies hosted the Tennessee Volunteers and lose. A game that it really felt like you needed to win. You really needed this one, and you aren't able to do it. You lose both halves by 4 points. And I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about. Wade Taylor got absolutely dominated and outplayed by Chaz Lanier. Wade Taylor goes 4-15 from the field. I think that I have a lot of 4 of 15 from the field. Like, what's the actual percentage on that? 4 divided by 15. That is 27%. Like, that's not good. I think we need to understand that. I think a lot of people look at a stat sheet and go, well, he had 18 points. Who cares? He shot the ball enough times that he should have had 29 points, you know, and 0-9 from 3. I mean, that's the thing about Phelps and Wade Taylor is even if they're not going, they're going to keep shooting it. And I mean, you know, Phelps was not much better. I mean, he was 1 of 7 from 3, 6 of 17 from the field, 15 points, 11 rebounds. But, you know, Wade Taylor did get to the line and make 10 of his 12 free throws. One of the better games of the year for the Aggies, the free throw line, as they go 18-20. We'll take that with March coming around the corner. But, I mean, you go 5 of 30 from 3. They go 13 of 27 to shoot 48% compared to your 16.7%. They shoot 42% from the field compared to your 39. I mean, the difference was at the free throw line. They made 8 more that 3-point line. They made 8 more 3-pointers than you did in this game. The 2 teams tied at the free throw line. They went 18 for 20. We went 18 for 20. The difference was Chaz Lanier went 8 for 13 from 3, 10 of 18 from the field, scored 30 points compared to your star and Wade Taylor, who scored 18 on a much more inefficient 4 of 15 from the field. That was the difference here. And I mean, the reality is this doesn't matter. The Aggies aren't. All this matters for seeding. I think this 0-2 week really hurt your chances of being a 2 seed. I think you're probably now looking at a 3 seed if you do finish out strong. But, I mean, I'm not trying to continue to get on Wade Taylor. I love Wade Taylor. He's a great person. He's a great basketball player, but he has got to be more efficient. It does frustrate me. I think that folks, like I said, are too much are box score warriors and don't look at the body of work. And, I mean, what's Wade Taylor at? Let's see what he's at on the season shooting percentage-wise. Is it still up there? He's shooting 36% from the field still. I'm surprised it hasn't gone down. No, when he shot 28 and 26% in his last two games. He hasn't shot above 30%. Well, he was 30.8% against Arkansas, but I mean, that's been his highest in the last three games. He's just not shooting the ball well. And I mean, if Wade Taylor, and I know that Texas A&M uglies games up and they muck games up and they play great defense and they make things sloppy and they make it ugly and they rebound and all that. And I get that's how they play the game basketball, but you still need somebody to score. And if your leading scorer is shooting, is missing 11 shots every single game, it's just going to hurt you. I mean, now there was a lot of, struggles from the field. You get Washington was 1 of 6 from the field. Anderson Garcia had a really great game, 14 points, 5 of 7, makes both of his free throws, both of his 3-pointers, also gives you 6 boards, a couple assists, a steal. So, I thought he was great in this one. Coleman gives you 8 points. He doesn't miss a shot or a shot of any kind, free throw or from the field. You don't get a ton from your bench. You got a total of 12 points total from your bench. And I mean, that's going to make it a little bit harder. Knowing that, they got 18 points from their bench. They got a little bit more from you there. But this team, the reality is Wade Taylor can't play like this in March Madness, or it's going to be hard for this basketball team to get out of the first weekend. I think where we all, as fans of this program, have to meet in the middle is we have to understand two things can be true. Texas A&M can be a great defensive team and be a great rebounding team and be a team that is elite in every one of those factors and still struggle to score the ball, and that can kill them. That's the reality. That can kill them in the NCAA tournament if they don't find a way to dial it in and get better in this aspect of the game. They've got to be better offensively. I just teams that win championships are good on both ends of the floor. Texas A&M is not a good offensive team right now. They're inefficient. They miss free throws. They miss jump shots. They miss threes. That they got to improve it. And I'm just telling you, as much as I hate to say it out loud, I think this team doesn't get out of the first weekend if their stars play like this. I mean, I guess together, this will be interesting math. Okay, this will be really interesting. So, in this game, Zurich Phelps and Wade Taylor combined to shoot 32 of Texas A&M's 59 shots, which means they shot 54% of Texas A&M shots from the field. And they went 10 of 32 from the field in those shots for 31%. I mean, that's not going to get the job done. They've got to be better. You need your stars shooting closer to 40%. I mean, that's just the reality. You want to be shooting 45% from the field as a team, or if not better than that. Like, that's how you win basketball games. And I mean, I'm going to have concerns if these two guys, and it's great that you have two guys. And yes, the problem with Wade Taylor for me, and once again, I love him. I'm not trying to harp on him. It's not all his fault. I mean, Zurich, there was a lot of poor performances in this game, but part of the problem with these two guys, and Phelps and Wade Taylor, is the inefficiency. They're both capable of going 13 for 17 from the field and putting up 34 points. They're both capable of doing that. But the problem is they do it very rarely. It's very rare that they do it. And so they keep shooting all these shots that don't go in. But yeah, March Madness, you got to win. Is it 6 games? 6 games, right? Round of 64, 32, 16, 8, Final Four, championship. Yeah, 6 games. You got to win 6 games in a row. And to do that, you can't have your star player score 34 points efficiently in one of those games. You have to be good the whole time. And I think Texas A&M's offensive boomer bust nature is going to eventually hurt this team. So I believe in the defense. I believe in all of it. I know they can win games like that, but the problem is, can they win 6 in a row? And I don't think the answer is yes. So if this team is going to get better and going to find a way to make a run in the NCAA tournament, the only way that they're going to be able to do it is if they get better on offense. We're going to talk about the baseball team and what happened this weekend against Cal Poly, and we will do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I'll tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed a chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your one shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and, of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. So it was a 2-1 weekend for the baseball team. They, of course, started the year with the sweep of Elon, and now they host Cal Poly. Game 1, you win 6-1. You get a homer from Grahovac in this game. He goes 1 for 3. You go Jason Laviolette goes 1 for 3. Hensler goes 3 for 3 in this game. You get 3 RBIs from Hayden Schott in this game, who gives you 1 hit. You only strike out 4 times. You left 11 on base. Obviously, you always want to clean that number up, knowing that you scored 6 runs and you had a lot of opportunities to put up more runs than that. Pitching, I mean, what do you expect from the GOAT himself, Ryan Prager? Nothing more. 2 walks, so you get a total of, and those of you, and once again, this is our first time talking about baseball this year. Probably we got some new Locked On Aggies listeners. My number one thing, pitching was my thing. I keep reiterating that. I try to establish that I do know baseball. I did play baseball in college at one point back in the heyday. And as a pitcher, like I hate free bases more than anything. And, it's not going to cost you a game potentially against Cal Poly, and we're going to talk about the loss, but 6 free bases, 3 hit by pitches, and 3 walks. 3 walks I can live with 3 walks, but 6 total free bases, I don't love it. I mean, you get 2 walks and hit by pitch in 5 innings from Prager. If it was just 2 walks, I'm cool with that. You want to dial in the hit by pitches. And then Brad Rudis, of course, walks, hits 2. Weston Moss walks 1, doesn't hit anybody. But, they get a total of 7 hits in this game, 1 run, and it wasn't even an earned run. You take that all day long. So that was a good win for this baseball team. You're happy with that win. The next game against Cal Poly on Saturday, you win a tighter one, 4-3 in this one. And you were down for a little while. You tie it in the 6th. They go back up at the top of the 7th. You make your big push in the bottom of the 7th. They score a run at the top of the 9th. Grahovac, another big game for him when it came to the RBIs. Only was 1 for 4, but a big hit for some RBIs there. You only have a total of 6 hits in this game, score 4 runs, and then you strike out 11 times. That's not going to get the job done. Lampkin, a great game from him. Once again, and we got to work on these. There's some errors, and those are problematic, and we'll get to that. But 6 innings from him, 2 total hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. So you get a total of 5 free bases in this game. Improve on it a little bit. I'm cool with that. You would have preferred, you don't want these games to be close, but it's just the reality is sometimes there's so much. One thing people don't understand, there's so much parity in college baseball. Cal Poly, they're not an elite. But there's so much parity. D2 teams, NAIA teams, junior college teams can beat Division I teams. It is the sport in all of athletics. There is the most parity. So that's why I'm telling you this, what people don't understand about baseball, we lost to Cal Poly. It could happen on any given night. I'm pretty sure that literally 4 of the top 5 teams lost this weekend. This is college baseball. It's what happens. This is the reality. Teams also aren't hot yet. This is going to happen more often when teams aren't hot. They're not dialed in. Both of these teams are trying to figure it out as they go. I'm not trying to make a ton of excuses, but it's just reality. And then, of course, in the loss, another low-scoring game, you don't get a ton of runs. Cal Poly scores 3 in the top of the 9th. Your 2 runs come in the 3rd. You aren't able to answer in the bottom of the 9th. And you end up losing this ball game, a game where you only get a total of 5 hits. And that's not going to get the job done. Hayden Schott gives you 2 hits in this one and an RBI. It's not going to be easy to get 2 errors from Grahovac in this one. Patton was incredible in this game. 4 total hits, no runs, 1 walk. You only have 1 free base in this game, and I love that. But Fresh Corn did get hit around the ballpark a little bit, and Coach Early said he's going to stick with them, and I believe in him. We'll finish out with this. Please, nobody panic on this baseball team. They won the series. If they lose the series, we'll have the conversation about panicking. But if they won it, yes, the bat's got to get going. They've played 6 games. They're going to get going. I promise they're going to get going. No one panic about this baseball team. It's going to be just fine. Trust me, they're going to be all right. We'll continue to talk about basketball and baseball and, of course, football throughout the week and forever here on Locked On Aggies. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Really appreciate y'all being here on this wonderful Monday. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day today, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.